You do want to figure out what in here fires off dopamine for me. That's your job at this point. However, if you short-circuit it with the weed, this is a whole other ballgame here. Here's what I want to say about the weed. I'm not saying that marijuana is good or bad. We got to get off with the good or the bad. It is quite a complex drug. But there's one thing that's very important to understand. And sometimes I even wonder why I have to teach this, but I do. This is a trick. This is not the real thing. This is a trick that happens to have the magic in it that for some brains can fire off a whole bunch of dopamine so their brains say, yeah. But it's not the real thing. And what can happen is people look at this like this girl and go, wow, this is important. It's a trick, folks. It's not the real thing. And I want to say something about this trick. But to trick the brain at this point, like for instance, you get to a party. How do you party? Somebody says, you don't need to figure out how to party. Just drink a little of this, smoke a little of this. You may be sitting in the same chair, but you're partying, okay? You get together with friends after school at 15 years old. What do? That's a really important thing to figure out. What's going to fire off some dopamine for us on this? Well, in our area here in Northern California, the odds are, if you're with a group of kids and they're trying to figure out what to do, one of the kids says, we don't have to figure it out. Let's just roll ourselves a fat one. That way, all we got to do is get loaded, and then we don't need to figure out what to do. It's a done deal. You feel a little down. You smoke a little weed, you're not down anymore. You're bored. Smoke a little weed, you're not bored anymore. But I want to say something. To do that at this point and to trick the brain, what you're tricking is trying to figure out what fires off dopamine for you. How do you recreate? What do you do when you hang out with friends? How do you party? Where are your interests? Where is that juice? That's your job at this point, is to figure that out, to short-circuit it with the weed. First of all, it becomes a dead-end street. I'll tell you why it becomes a dead-end street. So what the brain has to do is it says, I got to make more dopamine receptor sites so I can handle all the dopamine. So you start to create what I call a party brain. It says, okay, we're ready now. Where's the dopamine? Because we got our receptor sites there. The second thing that happens is as you pound these receptor sites with dopamine, it's kind of like taking a set of headphones, putting it on, and turning up the volume real loud. After a while, your ears go a little deaf. Here, after a while, you don't feel it as much. So now I'm going to need more of this to make this happen, okay? And you're developing a brain that says you want more and you feel it less, okay? And I want to say something about this. Maybe at some point, this thinking part of your brain that's been getting this guy high all this time, this thinking part says, listen, we got to stop now. We're going to get UA, we got a job, we got whatever. This part of the brain says, no, I don't want to stop. No, we have to stop now. No. We got to stop. No. And you get a war inside your brain. And if this guy wins, and you keep doing it even though you're saying no, now you're in big trouble. Now we're getting into what addiction is. Maybe you got to go to rehab. What do you rehab to if you never did figure these things out in the first place? If you never did figure out, how do I lift my spirits? How do I recreate? How do I hang out with? It's like starting from the beginning.